I believe that the day you start a business and before you actually deploy your product is like this magical time because you haven't yet put it in the marketplace. The marketplace isn't telling you that you missed the mark yet, right? So you have like all the joy of this is my business. I'm going to start it. I've started it. I'm going to build something. I'm going to put it out there. And largely, if your product market fit isn't perfect, no one's yet told you that your product is not ideal or your product's not good. So I think there's like this magical period that entrepreneurs have between 0 months and let's say 9 months. Where you're still riding the high of the idea, and you don't have anyone saying, "Oh." I think there's definitely some magic at the beginning of that entrepreneurial process.
I like how you said that. Before you launch, it's magical, and then once you really get going, it is one of those where you're like, "Oh, I don't even think I know what I'm doing." I still get those, and I send them every time. I send them everything.
Every time, send my dollar.
Man, jeez.
Send me $10 today and I'll send you $1 million tomorrow. I just need $10 for the wire transfer to get it out.
This is the Clark Connection Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and power. We'll dive deep into the stories and strategies that ignite personal growth and entrepreneurial fire. Join us as we empower you to take control, level up your leadership, and build the life you deserve. Get ready to rise, to thrive, and to finally become the leader of your own destiny. Let's go. Welcome to the Clark Connection Podcast, where we dive into real conversations about leadership, personal growth, and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Aaron Clark, aka The Coach. And today, we have a powerful episode lined up for you. I'm sitting down with Mike O'Brien, the mind behind Conext, a communication platform transforming how schools connect with their students. We'll talk about how COVID reshaped communication in education, the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, why delegation is essential for growth, and how AI is redefining the way we do business. Mike also shares some great book recommendations and lessons on client-led development, proving that success comes from staying curious, adaptable, and willing to learn. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment and thank our fantastic sponsors. First up, that is our premier sponsor, that Vicki Hubbard with Hubbard Flooring Studios. That leadership always starts with a strong foundation, and so does your home or office. Vicki and her team don't just cover floors, they help you step into excellence, one plank, tile, or carpet at a time. And now, Hubbard Flooring Studio offers Hunter Douglas blinds, giving you the ability to set the tone and control the light, and create the perfect environment to lead from. Visit them at their physical location on Bolin Avenue in Baton Rouge, or give them a call at 225-9415, or you can browse their work at hubbardflooringstudios.com. And through Christmas, they are giving 10% off of their rugs in 24 months, 0% interest. If you mention Coach Clark, they will give you an additional 10% off and a bottle of cleaner. Look for the discount code. It's in the description below. It's HUBFL. Hubbard Flooring Studio, where strong foundations and bright visions begin. Thanks to Wayne with 7K medals for silver and gold. Just like strong leadership, building wealth takes strategy and vision. Wayne helps you craft a foundation that shines. Shout out to Bobby with the Comfy Quest LLC. She helps realign, recharge, and create the mental and physical space to lead your life with balance and clarity. Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, making your business run smarter, smoother, and more efficiently, giving you the freedom to focus on what matters most. Big thanks to Joseph with Landscape King, transforming yards into beautiful, inspiring spaces that set the stage for creativity, growth, and leadership in every season. And a special thank you to C&J Embroidery, bringing your brand to life with custom designs that leave a lasting impression wherever you lead. Thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. And if this is something that you're interested in and want to join in and help to create a legacy that's going to develop more leaders, reach out to me. We're looking for new sponsors as we move into the 2026 year. So also, if you're just looking to connect with me, They hit me up. You can go to all socials at coach_A_Clark or visit my website, www.coachaclark.com. And to make sure that you don't miss out, they connect with the Clark Connection podcast on all socials as well, that you don't want to miss anything. Now, to quickly introduce you to my friend Mike O'Brien, that Mike's got a long laundry list of entrepreneurship and leadership, that as he's currently serving as the founder and CEO of Conext. He was the founder and CEO of financialaid.com, the founder and CEO of Wine Battles, founder and CEO of postings.com. He's a keynote speaker, been on all sorts of television broadcasts, including CNN, Fox News, and many local different things. And he wanted to make sure that I told everybody that he is an avid adult soccer player. All right, let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Mike O'Brien.
And welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, man. Great to be on. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely glad to have you on. Lots of good, cool stuff. I know we've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years, but to kind of kick it off, that I know right now, big thing is Conext. What is Conext?
So Conext is a communication layer platform that helps colleges modernize their communication with students, faculty, and other key contributors in the student's journey from the time that they're in inquiry all the way through to they get their first job. So we make ugly student information systems look a lot better.
Yeah, I was about to say, and that's quite a mouthful right there, all the different stuff. So,
Right.
I mean, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Well, we call that kindergarten. You want it like your kindergarten. So Sesame Street it. We're going to Sesame Street this up. So Sesame Street it. So Conext basically, when it all is said and done, we provide communications, which could be text messaging, it could be VoIP, it could be AI, it could be any type of conversation or any methodology that a student has to speak with their college, with a faculty member, their teachers, potential employers, and Conext is a piece of software that glues all that together. So if a teacher wants to text a group of their students, they can go into Conext, they can create a outbound message, and that message is automatically sent to the students. And what's really nice about that is there's a lot of privacy issues out there right now. Faculty don't want to show their personal devices. I mean, that's a big no-no. So with a tool like Conext, the faculty doesn't have to share their own personal cell phone number in order to engage with students or to communicate with students. So that's a big piece of it. During COVID is really when we took off. If you think about it, when COVID happened, most schools, most colleges didn't have the ability to continue to support their students because they couldn't go into the school. So Conext provides the school the ability to manage their students, enroll students, send them messages, have them sign documents, take payments, all those things that typically a student did while they were on campus. Conext enabled them to do it while they were at home. And we had our highest growth ever during COVID, and we came out of COVID very, very strong. So, we were in the last 2 years in a row, we were Fortune 500. So, or I'm sorry, 500 fastest growing companies in the country. That's something that, that we're really proud of. I think we're going to hit it again. So we just got to stay on the current path and maybe we're lucky enough to hit it again. So.
Yeah. And now you'd mentioned that VoIP, what would that be for those that aren't familiar with VoIP?
So VoIP stands for Voice over IP, and that just means that we're using a computer device. It could be a mobile phone, it could be an iPad, or it could be a computer desktop as a telephone. Instead of if you think about it, let's say during COVID, you had a student who needed to see about their financial aid. And so in the old world, they would have to wait for the financial aid office to open. With Conext, the financial aid officer could log in at home. They could take a phone call. They could help support that student. The student gets the aid that they need in order to go on to school.
All right. No, that's pretty cool. Giving the people the ability to not have to. So I can just call somebody through my computer with an actual phone number.
Right.
Or text them. Yeah, that's cool. That's real.
Cool. Fab. Yeah, and I have to apologize to everyone. I'm sitting in a parking lot. I'm an avid soccer player. My kids play soccer right now. I'm sitting in my car, and my kids are at a soccer practice. So you're going to see my face turn red. Maybe my face turn ghost white as the cars drive by. So I apologize for that up front. But life happens, though, right? Where we are, where kind of life happens.
No, I was about to say, and that's the cool thing about all the technologies. We're able to do this, and I mean, how many people listening are in the same boat? They've,
Right,
I'm at soccer practice too, or I'm at
right.
baseball or basketball, or
In support of my children. Yeah, it's kind of crazy what we do for the kids, man. I'll tell you though. That's one thing nice about being an entrepreneur, though. If you think about it, if I take off, an hour early on a Thursday to take a kid to practice, I can pick up that hour after hours. I can complete my work, at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, or in my car while I'm at soccer practice. So I to get a lot of stuff done. With the laptop sitting in my lap and my phone connected. So it's a good deal.
yeah. And I think that's cool to see too, that people like you are just normal people. You're out going live your life. Hey, while I mean, I rattled off all that list of stuff that Mike O'Brien does or has done. You still live your life. You can do this. You can have both.
I'll tell you, business and children are humbling. Like I've had a lot of successful businesses in the past. We took financialaid.com public as part of a roll up. That was fun. And so I went through that whole process of being a private company, and then going through the process of being public. But after it's all said and done, your next business is humbling because you're the front and tip of the spear at the beginning of it. Everybody does everything, Johnny do everything. So I think, when you start a business, yeah, I believe that the day you start a business and before you actually deploy your product is like this magical time because you haven't yet put it in the marketplace. The marketplace isn't telling you that you missed the mark yet, right? So you have like all the joy of like, oh, this is my business. I'm going to start it. I've started it. I'm going to build something. I'm going to put it out there. And largely, if your product market fit isn't perfect, no one's yet told you that your product is not ideal or your product's not good. So I think there's like this magical period that entrepreneurs have between 0 months and, let's say, 9 months, where you're still riding the high of the idea, and you don't have anyone saying, oh, you know what, so and so just created something that looks just like that. So I think there's definitely some magic at the beginning of that entrepreneurial process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like how you said that. Before you launch, it's magical. And then once you really get going, it is one of those where you're like, I don't even think I know what I'm doing.
Right. Well, that's half the truth, man. I tell you, fake it till you make it. I mean, like you're selling yourself in at the beginning, most entrepreneurial processes, whether you're talking to investors, whether you're talking to new potential clients, you're selling yourself. And your product is kind of secondary to how you're selling yourself. You're buying the people. I love going into a new restaurant that has a family that is working there, or going into a little store where someone who has a high degree of care and really wants you to have that experience because you're buying a portion of their time, their life. So I think there's definitely like wonderful things there. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things you said too that's important to remember as you're building that business is getting a little bit better every day, but then also learning who to listen to.
right. It is tough. Learning who to listen to, what to read, what motivates you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I finished a book and for the next 2 weeks I was like on fire, just like ripping roaring. I got to the point where I was like, I should just finish a couple chapters of a book and then put it down because it fires me up for enough time to like carry me through the next 2 weeks and then repeat. It's like a life hack on reading a book. So. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. We learn, re-engage, reinvigorate. Sometimes, like actually going on vacation, I find is like something that is very good for re-engaging the business because you have that continuity of thought. So, like during your workday, I find it hard to have 30 minutes to get into like deep thought where you can actually really solve business problems. And so I find that like if I'm Like I block 2 hours on Monday that is just dead time. And I have enough continuous thought that allows me to actually take the time to thoroughly think through something. And oftentimes you'll come up with a solution that isn't a band-aid. It is actually because you've given it the latitude and the length and duration to actually put the brain power into it to have a solution that is going to, stick, that is going to be, more than just like, let's get this fixed and move it on out. So I think there's, and vacations, if you get away and truly get away, having a day or 2 days where your brain isn't focused on the noise of your business, I think there's huge value in that.
And just, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, or, and that's one that Stephen Covey talks about it. Habit 7, you've got to sharpen the saw. If you don't go sharpen the saw, and that's what that time gives you, is to be able to go and get that clarity and break away, and that you're amongst it all day long. It's hard to just like really think about and solve that.
100%. As an aside, Stephen Covey's ex-wife used to live across from me in an apartment in downtown San Diego. So it was actually a lot of fun. She's a super nice woman. Anyway, but yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, like there's definitely time that you need to spend on yourself. There's time you need to spend on the business. There's time you need to spend on really thinking through what you do well and what you do not so well, and figuring out what can you offload. I think there's a huge amount of value in figuring out how you can offload things that you're not as good at. And I don't mean that you're bad at them. I just mean simply that they're not like the reason why your business has an edge. Figuring out what your business's edge is, and then being able to amplify that, is sometimes easiest by getting rid of the things that you do poorly or don't do as well, or someone else can do as well as you, so that you can focus more of your effort and time on the actual things that set you apart, that give you that business edge.
Yeah. And one of my friends, so he was just on, was Case. He likes to have what he calls clarity breaks, or the hour of clarity, where what he talks about doing is, he says, take a good old pad, take a good old pen, they leave he's put your phone on do not disturb, and that way nobody can get to you, leave everything in your vehicle, go to a coffee shop, press start on the timer for 1 hour, and write down, what are my 3 problems right now? What do I need to figure out right now? Because you'll be amazed at how just well you get to do that. And so he literally just told me that the other day. I'm like, dude, why are you just telling me that secret now, man? I could have been using this.
Right. Say that's a good tactic. That's a real good tactic. I think Case has something there. I think he's onto something there. I find myself doing something similar. I like to do runs. And so I find that if I get on a run and I don't listen to music, I can focus on something like that for a period of time. So like through exercise, just being able to get out there and, do something for a longer period of time. And again, it's the same type of thing. It frees your mind up, frees it up to process something all thoroughly. I feel like in just, the ding of your computer, the ding of your phone, the ding of whatever, I think interrupts us to a point where we just don't get that continuous thought. We don't get that stream of consciousness that allows us to solve a problem. And unfortunately, the more successful we are as business owners and entrepreneurs, we end up with more people dinging us all the time. I mean, like my day looks like a bunch of dings, it's like the calendar's continually every 50 minutes, it reminds me that I have another meeting in 10 minutes. It's the habit. It's always a habit of success, or a byproduct of success.
Right. I'll say, how does it go? The quote is, will my schedule be full? Says no leader ever.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you can get rid of your, close out your schedule. I've been my wife and I, we used to have the strategy of no with your kids, because if you say no to them enough, they stop asking. And so I think that almost with at least from a software perspective, you have to learn to say no or not now when it comes to development, because you can end up with a boatload of asks. And not enough time. You want to complete them all; they're all great ideas, but not enough time to actually complete them all while maintaining the customer service that you want to maintain with your clients. So I think there's definitely like a whole attitude around identifying when it's okay to say yes, when it's okay to say no.
And guys, if you've liked what you heard so far, make sure you hit like, subscribe, follow. That way you don't miss out on any of all this. And it also helps us continue to bring on great guests like Mike. And so kind of want to continue back on that thought as you were talking about not missing out on stuff. I think that's one of the things that's hard for all of us is because we're naturally, those of us that are entrepreneurs, we're naturally go-getters, is learning how to
Mm-hmm.
delegate. And
Yeah,
so how do you go about doing something like that? How do you they go about saying, like I'm really good at, I mean, in your case, they're working on developing the new AI stuff. You're great at that. Like, how do you
right.
know to like pass certain things on to other people?
I'll tell you what, man. It's something that at financial aid. When I sold it, we had 400 employees, and I still had trouble delegating. I think it's like I think that's my kryptonite. I think I would probably be a lot further along if I learned how to delegate more. I just love the complexity of being able to jump into a situation, understand the problem, and be one of the people that's solving it. I think there's absolute joy in solving problems. And so a lot of times, getting rid of things. I think in this business, I've done a better job. So this is I think my fifth or sixth business. I think I've done a better job in segmenting myself out of things that I did quite well in other roles, but other people do as well as I am. Like I've taken myself out of anything HR, anything finance, and in the financial aid, I ran the finance, and so I've removed myself from those types of roles, which allows me to be dev and product, which are two kind of like I get the creative juices from product, meaning we're creating what things we're doing new, what products we're shipping, and then from a development perspective, just interacting with people and helping solve problems of like whether we're working on leads coming into our software, or we're looking at partnering with our AI in order to solve a problem. Those are the joy things where you like have a problem and you when you solve it, your customer actually has a positive net effect. They're going to have something that's going to be positive in their business, and then they're going to come back to you with with a success or with sharing something that how you improve their business.
And another key point that you said there that you didn't sit there and say, hey, it's all about me. It's all about Mike. How do I make Mike better? It was, how do I help my customer? How do I help my client? How do I help them see success? It's
Well,
one
I've
of
been
those.
working on a book. I've been working on a book, man, and it's called. My working title is Client Led Development. And what that means is I've got the outline together. Now I'm kind of getting into the meat of it. But the idea is at Conext, we follow client-led development, which means that our client ends up being kind of like our product manager. And so when we're looking for things that we want to build, we go out to our clients and we say, "Hey, we're thinking about this. These schools that we work with have this problem. Do you have this problem? How would you address this problem? How would a solution come together, and how would it change your business if that solution was produced?" And so effectively, our clients become our sounding board. And what we typically do is we identify one lead client who has a specific or has more skin in the game, that the problem that we're solving has more value to them than it does to some of the other people. Once we have one of those sponsors, it allows us to really work, and they become someone we go to with the questions. They become our subject matter expert when it comes to whatever we're producing. And so what this does is it shortens the cycle. It allows us to rely on our customers to participate in the building process. And typically, if you're building with the client, they're going to buy something. So if I'm building it for them, they're going to buy something. And so selfishly, we help them solve the problem. But if we're building it for XYZ college, we're able to then reuse that same code and helping solve problems at other colleges. So from that perspective, it's a win-win-win situation, a 360 win. And from a development perspective, it enables us to shorten the cycles. And the schools are typically a lot more forgiving with stuff when they're part of the process. And what I mean by that is, I like Steve Jobs. He didn't say it this way. I've been working on this mentally and putting it together. But shipping something at 90%. If you remember, the first iPhone didn't have the copy and paste in it, and that was like one of the most silly things not to include. And Steve Jobs left that out on purpose because for whatever reason they couldn't get it in time, but he wanted to ship the iPhone. And so they shipped the iPhone. And even I think version 2 didn't have copy and paste. And it wasn't until version 3 that he actually put copy and paste in there. When he announced that it had copy and paste, everyone in the world was like, whoa, it has copy and paste. That's fantastic. So we kind of follow the same type of model. Like I think about like I want to focus on being an A minus. I don't want to spend enough time in something to get an A plus. So an A minus is largely good enough. That means that we're going to be working with our clients to deliver a product that is good and working towards great, but we're not going to let great get in the way of good. We're not gonna hold out and deliver something 6 months later because we're at an A minus as opposed to an A when it comes to the development. Does that make sense? I mean, that's been a kind of a strategy. It's been a strategy that we've used, and it also helps us stay ahead of our competition. Because we can ship something and we can get feedback from the client or clients before a competitor is anywhere near shipping. So we're already in kind of iteration 2 or 3 before our competitors come along and copy what we've done.
Well, and that comes all down from the top. That comes from your belief in that always trying to improve.
Yeah,
I always had that's always been one of my mindsets. Be pleased, but don't be satisfied. Because
right.
we can always be better.
I tell you, man. I'm 54 now, and I feel like you pick up these things in the decades of your life, and I feel like I wish my 50s self could whisper back to my 30s self, hey, just slow down a little bit. Take a little bit of time. After we sold the financialaid.com, I thought, oh my God, I have no job anymore. So when you sell a business, one of the things that is kind of interesting is most cases you may stay behind and run it, but you're not making you're sold your job essentially. And so, I was so worried about, maintaining. I have 4 children. They were in school. The cost of educating children is not cheap. And so, I wanted to take every dollar I had and make it work for me. So I wanted to put it to work and make sure that my investments were paying off and etc. So I think there's a lot of things that if I whisper back, if I just take a little bit more time. And so now when I talk to entrepreneurs who are in the process of selling the business, I tell them, don't do not do anything for the first 1 year. Don't make anything financial for the first 1 year. Give yourself a year to get acclimated to your new process. If you were lucky enough to sell out for a large number, get used to having that. Get used to everyone coming and asking you for stuff and hearing the most outlandish ideas. Family members, who may be coming with hands out. There's a lot of stuff that happens in that first year. But I mean, I would say, hey, take the time to just enjoy a post sale and ultimately don't put your money to work, too fast.
And so I'm gonna ask because I mean that's got to come from experience. What was your experience
Yeah.
with that?
It's so funny. Yeah. I almost purposely left that out. I sold financialaid.com in '05. Or we sold in '04, and then we went public in '04 with two other companies. And then we had pre-sold it to a larger public. So it was like we had 2 sales within 3 or 4 months. And so that was '05. Well, '06, '07, guess what happened? We had the financial crisis. And then we had at the same time real estate crisis. So I got my money and was like, oh, I'm going to buy apartment complexes. That's, apartment complexes are where it's at. And, it's going to be great. And so, investing all your money in the same 12 months, not smart, not real smart at all. So we took some hits there, and you know, $1 was 50 cents. After a little bit, and the '06, '07 financial crisis. I mean, that the market just like one day, I remember market was off like 30 or 40%. You're just like, oh my god, I worked all these years to build this thing up, and now within one day, it's just not your feet knocked out from under you. So, I mean, bottom line is, everything ends up working out. Everything's for a reason, etc. So, I think, but I think, the big guy in the sky was looking down at me saying, "Hey, smartass. Hey, you know what? You're getting a little bit too big for your britches. Let's slow you down a little bit. You think you're all that."
Give him a slice of
You
that
know,
humble pie.
Exactly, right, right. Big guy in the sky with a humble pie. Yep, 100%. So yeah, I think that's where that stemmed from, is just getting stung in the financial markets, and then at the same time getting stung in real estate. And when you sell your business, you typically want to go buy that nicer house, and you want to go buy that nicer car, and you want to take some of the spoils of your efforts. And I think that doing all the things is not great. I think had I taken a year and said, okay, well, maybe I'll go buy myself the car, and then a year later we're going to get the nicer house, and the year after that we're going to start looking at where can we deploy this cash to really have a nest egg, generational nest eggs. That's how I would answer that.
And that goes with the age old, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just go
And that's interesting.
open it
I
here.
think about that a lot too. Is the time frame? You don't want to, like, the dollar cost averaging is makes all the sense in the world. And then what I did, I put the money in all in the same year, and so I had suffered all the same, whatever the direction that was. So it's like, even though I was in these different baskets per se, real estate, stock market, my other financial vehicles that we were in. Uh, and that seems to be well spread out from a product perspective or from an investment perspective, but it all had the same year genesis, and so you're kind of stuck. You're kind of stuck in with whatever happens based upon what the value of that was at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, as you're trying to work through and build up all your stuff, make sure that you hit up Vicky with Hubbard Flooring Studios. She's been helping build strong foundations in your home or office for 30 plus years. When you hit her up, tell her Coach Clark sent you. Right now through Christmas, that she's giving 20% off on rugs, and it comes with a bottle of cleaner. But you got to mention my name. And so, speaking of, had a bunch of other things. So you did financialaid.com. They got the wine, like, what is Wine Battles?
Wine battles is awesome, bro. So I got celiac when I was in my 30s. Celiac means that I can't have any gluten, and so I was a big beer guy. So all of a sudden, I couldn't drink beer anymore. I liked all the fancy beers, and I was in San Diego, which is like the microbrew capital of the world. One day you wake up and your body says, you know what, we can't process gluten anymore, and so I was like, okay, well, I got to figure out wine. Then I got to figure out wine. And there was no online courses for wine. There was nothing. So Wine Battle started out as like this kind of like app. It was a mobile app that enabled you to basically rate the wines you drank. And then after a period of time, we worked with enologists and whatnot. After a period of time, you built up this like profile, and then the profile would say, "Hey, at the store you're at, you like these 6 wines or whatnot." Well, what we ended up doing was we gamified it. And so Wine Battles ended up being March Madness for wine. So yeah, it was actually, it's like super fun. We were in GQ magazine. Like, it was like, that was actually a great learning experience with Wine Battles. So what it was is March Madness for wine. So we had, I think it was 16 different vintners enter, right? So they all put in their Cabernets. Then we had people that bought the tournament. And so each week they got shipped 2 bottles, and they would pour a glass of each with a spouse or with someone they cared about. And we had the app, and they would take sips, and then we'd ask questions on the app. They would record it, and then at the end of the season, the winner moves along. So they would vote for everyone votes for which wine's better. That wine moves along, etc. Repeat until we have a kind of our victor. Well, it was super fun. I mean, like, really neat. The people are fantastic. The people that actually make wine they're more like artists. They have like that artistic flair, and they really care about what they're doing. But from a business perspective, I learned a really big lesson, which was, when we started out, we had hundreds of people that were in the Wine Battle. And then as we got successful, and we were in like GQ magazine, we were in these other magazines, all of a sudden you had a lot more people. Well, if you work with small vintners, you can't buy their whole lot of wine. Like, you're trying to buy it. And so what you ended up having to do is, like, as we got bigger and bigger and bigger, we had to work with the same wines that someone could get in their grocery. And so when that happened, there was really no reason to use a want to use wine battles anymore. At some point, the actual business model broke down. So, when we went to thousands of people in a battle, the business model actually broke down where you couldn't, because you think about it, we're shipping a bottle to 1,000 people in a wine battle. And then if that bottle wins, we ship another 1,000. If that bottle wins, we ship another 1,000. And so you had like these small vintners that were, their total production for the entire year was maybe 2,500 bottles. And so they couldn't be in a battle. So, so it took the fun out of it too, as you're trying, we
Yeah.
like the working with the small vintners, the small business owners. And so as you got bigger, you had to work with the corporate ones. And those were, they were not as fun. They were not as, anyway, great business though. It was a super fun business.
Yeah. So like, how would that work? Did you like buy, like if I got the battle app, would I pay like a monthly subscription or?
It was a single cost. So what you get is you get a single cost, you buy a battle. So a battle might be X number. We know that you're going to get 2 bottles each week for a total of, I think, 8 weeks or whatever it was. And so you're getting 16 bottles of wine or whatever it was. So we would ship you the first box. And the first box had the first, I think, 4 rounds in it or something. And then we'd ship another box. And then we had the winner, the final battle box. And so, it was great. We had really neat branding. It looked really nice. Like it was like you open it up and you had a letter in there, and it had a wax stamp. And then we had a letter from the vintners bragging about how they made the wines, and so it was a great business.
Yeah, that seems like fun. But how
Yeah.
would you have kept that small? Like how would you have then not
It
outgrown that?
You can't. It was just the business model didn't make sense when it's all said and done. And we were working on, I think 50% margin is what you typically do. Well, when you're talking about shipping and then the effort that you put into it, it just didn't work financially from a standpoint of like you couldn't support the 8 or 10 employees that we needed in order to kind of make that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I do like that. Everybody loves a good competition.
Yeah, exactly. We had people that after we started that tried to do tequila battles and these other things, and so it was like it was all interesting that you had people that were copying your idea and making it their own to a certain extent. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That does sound like a bunch of fun. And then it was the other one was postings.com.
Yeah, postings.com is actually an interesting story. So we spun postings.com. After we sold financialaid.com, I started Mingle. And Mingle was kind of a private equity / VC company where we started businesses. And we started a business that precluded postings that was in the recruitment space. And then we founded postings.com. Postings.com helps small, mid-sized businesses post jobs and interview employees and hire employees. So postings works with small, mid-sized businesses. And it's interesting, the process of hiring someone is very similar to the process of enrolling someone in school. So that's kind of how we made that leap from postings.com into Conext, because one of the things that Conext does really well is help schools manage their enrollment process. So as a student is in inquiry, they're interested in going to school, they go through an application process, they're going to interview, they're going to sign some documents, maybe do a background check if they're in certain programs. And ultimately that process is identical for hiring someone. So we had a school that was utilizing our postings.com business as a way to manage their application flow. And we're like, this is interesting. Someone using our software for an unintended purpose. Could we sell this? Could we build a different business around that? And so, yeah, when we first launched our first customer on Conext, we shared about 75% of the code base with postings.com. Today we share less than 1%. So it's like they're completely different businesses with different support now. So
Oh, that's pretty cool. All how it morphed in hearing all that. Now what would you say starting out like? Because what was the first one you said? Financialaid.com.
yeah.
Was that the first business venture you had? First entrepreneurial journey, or?
No, so I had before that, while I was in college, I went to Fresno State in California. While I was in college, I started a t-shirt business, and we supported fraternity sororities and not-for-profits and other small businesses making hats and making t-shirts and whatnot. And that business did really, really well. We had our own clothing line that we sold online. We were actually one of the first organizations to sell business online. And we worked with all kinds of not for profits. I mean, as a funny story, we always been super technology forward. And so when the American Cancer Society needed to do their runs, their walks, they had to produce a shirt and then ship it back to their central office in order to have that shirt approved. So like, to make sure that the design was okay and whatnot. What we did instead was we took a picture of the shirt and we emailed it to their central office, and that was super novel. And so we earned a lot of business with a lot of the different American Lung Association, American Cancer Society, because we were able to shorten the cycle times. If you think about that, like
Now, what year was that?
that was 1997, 8, somewhere in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty. We were still on dial-up. Was DSL or anything out at that point?
It was the DSL. We had DSL. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And
Well,
and
you said that's right. You said you were in Cali, so yeah, y'all were a little bit further ahead than we were here in Louisiana.
That's true. That's true. Well, and the funny thing is, I remember our first client that we emailed something to. It was like at an AOL account. I remember that you got mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, it's kind of crazy because you look at those little things you had novelly that I loved. I bought my first domain name in 1995 or so. So I was buying random domain names, and the ability to send an email was just like you could send, like, you had to have like your AOL or your whatever your dial-up provider was. And so we took picture, and then you could, if you get the picture into the computer, then you could email it. And so it was this whole novel thing that when we sent it, they're like, wow, this is amazing. You mean you don't have to, because from a t-shirt production perspective, we would charge them to produce the sample. Like, it's very expensive. There's not a lot of difference to make 10 t-shirts or 100 t-shirts to make one. It's a setup of these huge machines that print the shirts. And so, when you're making one for a sample, you have to set up and then tear down, and you're an hour and a half, 2 hours to set up, tear down. And so for the, for American Lung Association or Cancer Society, what that meant is that if they wanted to make changes, that t-shirt had to go back and forth 3 or 4 times. And so instead, we could take a picture or send an image of the design, that was before we even printed it, to get the approval. And that was super novel. It was like, wow, this is fantastic. We can see the design.
That's really cool. I remember like the first time getting one of those emails, and it was like, wow, that's a picture of so and so.
Yes. Gosh, I just remember all the spam. I remember the spam just being so bad. It was just terrible, horrendous.
And if you don't forward this to 10 people, you don't love Jesus, and the boogeyman's going to come out from under your bed and get you, while also you'll never have love again.
Exactly, right? 100%. That's 100%. And then you had your the African money chains of like, I have $10 million that I need to move out of my, I'm crown prince, and I need to move to America. And I got your email.
Real?
Yeah, sorry, man. Did you send?
I still get those. And I send them every time. I send them everything.
Every time. Send my $1. Send me $10 today, and I'll send you $1 million tomorrow. I just need $10 for the wire transfer to get it out.
And that explains why I hadn't got that $1 million yet.
That's the truth. That's why we're sitting here, and why thus we're sitting here today.
Man. Oh, well. Such is.
Yep. Such is life.
Yeah. Well, as we're kind of winding down a little bit, getting close to the end of the show, one of the things I always like to talk about is, I believe that all leaders are readers. Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are learners. They're constantly working and growing themselves. And so what's one book that you would recommend that everybody, all leaders, all entrepreneurs read?
Predictably Irrational. Have you read it?
All right. Nuh-uh.
No? Get it. It's fantastic.
What's it called?
Predictably Irrational. It's by Dan Ariely. And I may have said his last name wrong, but it's a fantastic book. Everyone should read it. It's a quick read, and it talks about a lot of human psychology and the way that we approach things, from cost stuff to just positioning. The stories in there are just fantastic, and once you read it, you'll see how what Dan produced out of this book is actually in play in so many areas and avenues of our society and in business strategy. It's fantastic.
I'm definitely adding that. Just the name alone was enough for me. Like,
Yeah.
they're irrational, but it's predictable.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. It's good stuff.
That'll be, almost makes me want to, because I just started reading The Ultimate Sales Machine.
Okay.
It almost makes me want to put that down and go get this other one.
Yep.
Would that make me predictably irrational?
It might fall into some sort of study somewhere. Yeah, that might be true. That might be true.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And now, what about, like, what's something maybe you just finished reading or are currently reading?
I go back and forth, and I think I find myself reading stuff that I liked. And when I say reading, I really mean listening to stuff. And I found that for me, listening to stuff while I am working out or running or doing something, driving, if I'm driving back and forth, enables me to really consume the content, and it's not competing for any of my mind space. And so I feel like that the like Audible is fantastic. So to answer your question, I'd read Atomic Habits some time ago, and I'm rereading Atomic Habits. I think that's a fantastic. We're re-listening to Atomic Habits. It's funny because I listened to it at like 1.5 or 2 times the normal speed. So you can just like really, and then when I get into something that I'm an area where I really want to pay attention, I'll slow it down. But it allows you to kind of like consume enough information to feed your brain and keep you engaged.
Yeah, that one's a phenomenal. That one I actually, I actually ended up getting I listened to you at a conference, and that was one of the books you gave away, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And so I started reading it on the plane ride home because I just finished whatever book I had brought. And I was like, oh man, I can't wait to sit down and finish this. And I've listened to it twice since. Phenomenal book.
I walk away with something new every time, and I think like they just kind of every time I listen to it re-engages my brain around some of the things that like the idea of habit stacking. I use that all the time. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I have packed around my toothbrush. Like when I look at my toothbrush now, I got my magnesium. For the listeners who don't know, habit stacking is a process of like something you do every day natively, like brush your teeth in the morning. So you kind of like hide things around your toothbrush, just because, and then you'll stack on a habit. So you associate your toothbrushing to, for me, like at night, I take magnesium because it makes me, I feel like I sleep better. So I have my bottle of magnesium touching my toothpaste. Otherwise, I might forget it. So yeah, no, I think that habit stacking is fantastic in there.
Yeah, I was about to say, and if you want to learn more, I did do a book review on that episode 39. The podcast guys, you can go get a good rundown. I mean, phenomenal. Yeah, I put all sorts of stuff on my keys. That way I have to remember to get it, do it.
Yep. I think what was really impressive there is you remembered that it was number 39. I think.
Well,
yeah.
Actually, I just pulled it up on while you were talking. I'm like, let me go grab which one was that.
Yeah. I see you cheated. That's what you're saying.
Is it really cheating if you use the resources that are available to you?
No, I would argue probably not. So there you have it.
I mean, Albert Einstein didn't even know his own phone number.
He didn't have a phone, I don't think.
He might not have. I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't have a cell phone, that's for sure. Didn't have a VoIP. We were talking about VoIP earlier.
Yeah, they didn't have VoIP or AI. He didn't have AI.
His laptop lasted about 8 minutes. That was.
I mean, I guess he did have AI if you consider Albert's intelligence. Yeah.
There we go. He did have AI for sure. There you have it. Boom. Drop the mic. Mic drop.
They were coining that one. I got AI all the time. Aaron's intelligence.
And that was a cheat. That was a copy of your own. That was copying yourself, man.
Oh, I mean.
It's extending your own AI.
Hey, do what you got to do. If it works, it works.
It does work, my friend.
So the last question I always ask everybody is what's one question that I should have asked you that maybe I didn't ask you?
I was thinking, while you were talking about, well, first off, we can talk about AI. I mean, that would have been that's a whole nother segment, in and of itself around, what's happening with that. So I think that either you were smart to kind of like just keep this, where we could cover a couple different topics because you get into AI and we could fall down rabbit holes and have a lot of problems. So
Yeah. Well, I like that you think that I was smart and did that on purpose. So
right, well,
that's
there
what
you
we're
go.
going with.
That's it's the selection that we made and we're sticking to it.
But it was just the natural progression of the conversation that really took, as you were going through and talking, because you did start it off, you talked a little bit about it, but then going through, hey, helping with, how the launch of getting your business going. And so, I mean, that's one of, I think that's, we all struggle going through that as the entrepreneur. And so, I mean, that's one I didn't even ask you. What was your biggest struggle going or getting started?
I think about like the entrepreneurial process, right? And every time that I get to the point where the business is actually stabilized, meaning that like you've got to a point where you've had hit your break even point, that you exhale a little bit. I'm like, how the heck did I get here? And like I wouldn't even know how. Like 4 years into it, I forgot how to file a business license. I don't even know what I would do. Or like, can you imagine? Yeah, the process of starting up is so arduous and so, I mean, it's less complicated today than it was before with being online, but it's still scary. It's a scary thing, especially if you have family and if if you're not. I always recommend, I mean, my first business, I was working as a waiter at Chili's, which is, I don't know if y'all have Chili's, but it's a chain restaurant, and I was working as a waiter there, and that freed me up to work on my business during the day, and then I worked nights at Chili's, so I had low risk. If I blew the business up, I was, I'd keep my Chili's job. If we
Yeah.
blew it up the right way, and then I could quit Chili's. So at some point, I was lucky enough to quit Chili's. So
Yeah. I'll say, just go sell some more triple dippers.
yep, there we go. Well, hey, what about the oh man, I'll tell you what. They had this CFCH was chicken fried chicken salad. So good. Really good. Man, that was good. CFCH. I still remember some of the codes for typing stuff in.
Well, I mean, it was only like last year or something, right?
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, this is that was only last year. Some 27, 8 years, 30 years ago, something like that. I don't even know. Something like that.
And who's counting? Who's counting?
Not me. Not me, my friend.
No, but and I mean, even going back to the AI, that's something that definitely get back on and because you and your company Conext are way ahead of the curve. Say with that right now, it's really cool some of the stuff y'all have. I mean, maybe we definitely could get more into what when you're not in the parking lot at your son's soccer practice.
I think this is the thing now. I think this is my spot, man. I'm flowing here. I don't have any no there's I don't even have my cell phone near me. I think this is a good spot, man. I was like, hey, this is not a bad spot. No noises of the dog coming in, no noises of someone delivering, something to the front door. There's so many interruptions in this car, unless someone comes and knocks on my window, I think, excuse me, sir, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing in there? I'm doing a podcast.
I'm
I'm doing
talking
the
to the
Coach Clark
rad
show.
dude alive.
Yeah, there we go.
But make sure you likes and subscribes.
Yes, exactly. Hey, you
Share
want
it with
some?
all your friends.
Exactly. Yep. 100%.
Well, cool. Well, Mike, if
Yep.
anybody on here wants to reach out, get connected with you, how do they
Yep.
reach out and get connected with you?
I'll tell you what, I think LinkedIn is probably the best way to do that with me. I'm on there frequently, and I think there's a good way to do that. Just look for Mike O'Brien. If you do Mike O'Brien and Conext, it'll pop me up.
Absolutely. Mike, I appreciate it getting on, sharing your stories, sharing your experience with us. And we definitely gonna have to do this again and get more into that AI.
Yes, certainly. You let me know. We'll jump on and talk AI, and I'll scare you. I've been I found myself diving into some deep deep holes around like, what AI could be, what it really is. And so, I feel like there's definitely a lot of conversation that can be had around that.
Well, I mean, it's going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, coming back from the future, and
Right. Well, he's already here. He's already here, man. I mean, we're already in the Back to the Future part. We're
no,
we're living that part of it.
true, he'll be back.
I'll be back.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Mike.
All right, brother. Good speaking with you.
All right. Man, what a great conversation with Mike O'Brien. I love how he broke down the journey behind Conext, not just as a tech platform, but as a tool that's redefining communication and connection in education. A few big takeaways that really stood out. That was, growth in business and in life comes from learning to delegate and trust your team. Letting your clients help shape your product leads to a better result. And in this fast changing world, stay curious, reading, and continuing to learn keeps you ahead of the game, especially as AI becomes a bigger part of how we work and lead. If you took value away from today's episode, take a minute and just share it with a friend, another entrepreneur, or someone in education who could use the inspiration. And before we wrap up, I want to once again thank our premier sponsor, Hubbard Flooring Studio. Just like a great business, every strong floor starts with a solid foundation. Thanks to Hubbard Flooring Studio for helping us to stay grounded while we keep building other leaders. And remember, we're always looking for new partners to join us as sponsors of the podcast. If you want your brand highlighted in front of leaders and growth-minded listeners, reach out and let's talk. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can visit coachaclark.com or send me an email, aaron@coachaclark.com. I'd also love for you to follow along with me on social media so you never miss out on another episode. And remember, you don't need to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Until next time, keep growing, keep leading, and keep connecting. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Clark Connection Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Clark Connection Podcast, where my goal is to add value to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. You can also connect with me via my website, coachaclark.com, or on all socials at coach_a_clark. The links are in the description. Huge thanks to my sponsors, Wayne with 7K Metals, Bobby with the Comfy Quest LLC, Andrew with Automate Integrate Professional Services, Joseph with Landscape King, and Chris and Jess with C&J Embroidery. We look forward to bringing you more great content. See you next week.